Hi, it's Emily. We're here to keep talking about the top 5 most wasted foods at home. And number 1 was bread. So that is the number 1 most wasted food. So we have a few tips for you for how you can prevent it from going bad at your house. One thing that I think, when you think about food waste and how you can reduce it, and you look at what levels we should be working at, the first thing is always reducing at the source. So when we take that back to food waste at home, how can we reduce it? Well, buy less bread. I think the thing about bread is there's so many different types, and you have hot dogs, you buy hot dog buns and hamburger buns and then sliced bread for sandwiches, and when you buy all those different types of bread for different items, it leads to probably having a little bit of excess that goes to waste. So one thing I think is key is just trying to maybe be a little more flexible with what you use. You have leftover hamburger buns from having hamburgers, just use it for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich instead of sliced bread. So I think that helps in the get-go. It's just to be kind of flexible with how you use the ingredients that you have. But when you do have extra, there's a couple different things that I do with bread to try not to toss it out. One simple thing is just to make homemade croutons. If you like croutons on your salad, you can just take whatever kind of bread you have. I've used sliced bread, I've got buns here, I've even used hot dog buns because you season it up and it tastes good no matter what. So I'm just going to take this bread and slice it, and then I'll cube it up. I'm not going to do a ton because it's not like we're eating mounds of croutons over here, but they will last for a week and a half, 2 weeks, and you can actually keep them longer in the freezer if you want to, and then just pop them back in the oven for a second to crunch them up. But I'm not doing this like really, perfect. They're just chunks of bread that we're gonna dress here in a second with some olive oil and salt and pepper. You can add whatever different seasonings you like. Sometimes I like to add garlic or rosemary. That's good with that, especially like with the Caesar salad. I'm cutting right on the cutting board because it's less mess. But anyway, so we just have a big old pan of chunks of bread, and we'll go up here so we can get them ready to pop in the oven and get that started. I do it at like 400 degrees, I think, so that you're just getting the outside really good. So we take some olive oil and just give that a nice coating, and then salt to season them, and a cute pepper. And let's put some rosemary on them if I can find it. Okay, here's some whole rosemary. I'm just gonna sprinkle a little bit of that on. These are gonna be good. Give it a toss, and then put them in the oven for like 10 or 15 minutes. You can check on them partway through. I mean, you want them to be pretty crunchy, otherwise they won't keep. They have to be fairly crispy for them to be able to stay. But once they're done, you can just store them in a container and use them over the course of a week or two if you're having a salad for dinner or as a side. All right. Another thing that you can do with bread, I don't know if anyone buys breadcrumbs from the grocery store to put in a recipe, but all it is dried out bread and seasonings. So for that, I'm just going to cut these in half, and maybe I'll cut them in half again so they have a little more, maybe even quarters. The more air that gets to them while they're sitting out, the faster they're going to dry out. But basically we're just going to leave this on an open sheet. I have a pan here that has holes in the bottom, so that helps it dry out a little bit faster too. But there. Just got a pan of some bread chunks that I'll leave here on the table, and then after a day or two they'll be just pretty hard, and just put it in a food processor or a blender and blend it up. And then you can see, if you want like plain breadcrumbs, leave it at that, but if you want seasoned ones, you can add Italian seasonings or salt. And then I store it in the freezer. In the pantry, it's not going to last much longer than a week or two, and breadcrumbs aren't something that I use every week, so I'll just have a small container that I put in the freezer, and the next time I'm making something that calls for it, I can pull them out and have it ready. We'll later this week get back once they're dried out. Some other things for bread. If you want to go the dessert route, someone should make a bread pudding recipe and post that for us this week. That's a really good use of some old stale bread. So that's all I've got today. The next on the list is milk. So we'll be back with some tips on how to use up excess milk, or how to try not to have milk go to waste at your home.